We're streaming live. Thanks for joining us. We're streaming live, but this will also be available for viewing on all of Edmonton Global's social channels afterwards. I'm Lynette Tremblay. I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Innovation for Edmonton Global. And Edmonton Global focuses on attracting investment to the Edmonton metropolitan region in Alberta, Canada. Today, we will be discussing why investors should look to Alberta for their next biopharma investments. And even before the pandemic, our region had significant assets and competitive advantages for biotechnology and pharmaceuticals. I'll give a quick overview of what some of those strengths are, and then we have three guests with us who have some unique insight into the sector in Alberta and what's happening. First, we have world-class talent and research expertise in Alberta. The University of Alberta ranks in the top 15 globally for its research citations in the pharmaceutical sciences. And it's third in Canada for a number of active clinical trials in 2020. We're also home to the Li Kai-shing Institute of Applied Virology, where some of Canada's top virologists are generating a pipeline of new vaccines and antivirals, including Order of Canada recipient Dr. Lauren Tyrell and Nobel laureate Dr. Michael Houghton. We also have existing industry infrastructure and a glowing cluster. The Edmonton region has a strong life sciences ecosystem that includes chemical and pharmaceutical companies, engineering talent, and all of that manufacturing early stage inputs and mid-stage active pharmaceutical ingredients. This cluster has already attracted biopharmaceutical giant Gilead Sciences, and Gilead's investment has grown over the past 15 years in our region. And then finally, we have specialized logistics capabilities and access to key markets. Our Edmonton International Airport is the first airport in Canada to successfully secure specialized certification for pharmaceutical handling. And our airport is the closest major North American airport to Asia via circumpolar routes. We have a foreign trade zone and 14 trade agreements with 51 different countries, opening access to 1.5 billion consumers. All of this means that we in the Edmonton metropolitan region and across Alberta have the expertise and capability to get drugs and vaccines to a global market. These advantages are part of what helped our region's companies and researchers pivot quickly and rise to the challenge when they first heard of the fast-spreading COVID-19 virus in early January 2020. Within a year, there were 17 proposals for COVID-19 vaccines out of the University of Alberta alone. And now 2 Alberta companies have developed vaccines that are entering phase 1 clinical trials in an incredibly short period of time. We're going to be speaking with those 2 companies today. And first, I'd like to start with Dr. John Lewis. Dr. Lewis is a scientist and serial entrepreneur. His research interests lie in the areas of nanotechnology and imaging as they relate to the development of novel treatments for chronic diseases such as aging and cancer. Dr. Lewis is also the CEO of Alberta-based Entos Pharmaceuticals. And Entos has developed a single-dose COVID-19 DNA vaccine that is similar to the recently approved mRNA vaccines, but with the important advantages of stability at room temperature for 30 days or in the fridge for a year, and much more. So, Dr. Lewis, can you tell us a little bit more about Entos and about your COVID vaccine?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Lynette. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself and our technology. So as you mentioned, I am the CEO of Entos Pharmaceuticals. We're an Edmonton-based biotechnology company. I'm also actually an academic, a professor at the University of Alberta. And about myself, I've spent many years as an academic scientist, but also an entrepreneur, really working to develop novel treatments for cancer, age-related diseases, and now, most importantly, COVID-19. So Entos is an innovative Alberta-based biotechnology company. So we have a solid track record in the development of state-of-the-art treatments for a wide range of diseases using this platform that we call Fusogenics. And Lynette, as you mentioned, we have developed a single-dose, fridge-stable, pan-coronavirus vaccine against COVID-19. That is really just on the cusp of starting clinical trials. Most importantly, the Fusogenics platform that underpins our COVID vaccine was developed as the result of years of Canadian academic research, and our COVID-19 vaccine is proudly manufactured in Canada, actually right in Alberta, and we're hoping that it's going to be successful and brought to bear on this pandemic for the benefit of Canadians and potentially the world.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to revisit a conversation with you in the group in a little bit. But first, I'd like to bring Dr. Davis into the conversation. So Dr. Jared Davis is with Providence Therapeutics, also an Alberta-located company. Dr. Davis is a well-respected and experienced leader in mRNA manufacturing and mRNA therapeutics field. Most recently, before coming to Alberta, he was the Vice President of Technical Operations and Manufacturing at Arcturus Therapeutics in San Diego, California. In October, Dr. Davis was brought on as President of Providence Therapeutics, moved to Alberta to lead the Providence team through the transition to becoming a clinical company with the phase 1 clinical trials for its COVID vaccine. Dr. Davis, we're very glad to have you in Alberta and here with us today. Can you tell us a bit more about the work Providence Therapeutics is doing and its future plans?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the introduction, and it is nice to be in Alberta. So Providence was founded in 2015, really as a passion play by our founder, Brad Sorensen, to develop therapeutics for a wide variety of cancer indications that were being unmet. So he really started it kind of being agnostic to what modality he wanted to use. And very quickly they came upon the mRNA technology and looked to use it as a personalized cancer vaccines for these therapies. In early 2020, we were very close to going into the clinic with our first cancer vaccine. However, COVID hit and our plans changed. We very quickly developed a vaccine for COVID using the technology we developed over the years for our cancer programs. We are currently in our phase 1 clinical trial. We're actually most of the way through that, wrapping that up in about a month. And we'll have at least all the preliminary readouts in about a month. We are growing rapidly here in Alberta and look to be able to grow both our infectious disease pipeline as well as get back to cancer as quick as we can. I mean, that really is our DNA. And all of the leadership here at Providence are very excited about our cancer program and want to get back to it when we can. That said, we understand that the need right now is around COVID, and we are very excited about our preliminary data and think that we'll have a very competitive vaccine coming very soon.
That's incredibly exciting. And we were talking just before we went live about how COVID has accelerated timelines all around. And I think it's what I've taken from both of your comments is how quickly companies, researchers in Alberta pivoted and produced results. I think it's incredibly impressive. So next, I'd like to bring into the conversation Andrew MacIsaac. Andrew, over the past decade, has successfully established over $75 million in partnerships between industry, academia, government, and donors. Andrew is the CEO of Applied Pharmaceutical Innovation in Alberta, or API. API is a not-for-profit institute that helps commercialize pharmaceuticals in Alberta. Under Andrew's leadership, over the past 2 years, API has incubated enterprises that have grown to a combined market capitalization of $370 million. That's incredibly impressive, Andrew. Can you tell us a little bit more about API's work and your future plans?
Thanks, Lynette. Yeah, absolutely. So API is a not-for-profit institute. We launched out of the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences at the University of Alberta. And our core mandate is to enable companies to do their translational science here in Alberta as they're growing and scaling. So we work very closely in a hybrid model housed within the Faculty of Pharmacy, as well as with sites in Calgary and Lethbridge to provide the translational expertise that companies need to scale and grow. And so we do everything from clinical trial manufacturing to pharmacokinetic analysis to bioanalytical work, you name it. And one of the biggest sort of advantages of API is we're a hybrid between academia and a CRO, where you are able to access some of the niche expertise that you find within an academic lab but within the timelines and structure of a traditional contract research organization. And so the key sort of fundamental objectives of API is to ensure that this capability is at the fingertips of companies here, as well as ones that want to move to the region. So for us, one of the big challenges that we've found within Canada and more broadly around the world is the issue of getting that ability to manufacture drugs. So we're working quite diligently with companies like Providence and Entos to establish more and more of that capability to enable companies to quickly bring their drugs beyond the clinical trial phase and into the market. We also work with a wide range of innovators, from Doctors Lauren Terrell and Michael Houghton at the University of Alberta, folks down within Lethbridge and Calgary to apply some of their niche technology and capabilities to companies that are looking to access some innovation within a framework that works for their intellectual property and their pipeline.
That's great. There's clearly a lot going on in Alberta's biopharmaceutical sector and a lot of growth potential. I wanted to bring in a bit of some recent announcements and ask you all how they might impact your organizations. So both the provincial and national governments have taken notice of the growth opportunity in these sectors and have recently responded with commitments to further support vaccine development, but also to grow domestic manufacturing capacity. So the federal government has recently completed a consultation that focused on targeted enhancements to Canada's biomanufacturing and life sciences ecosystem. And then, of course, the government of Alberta recently announced that they would be accepting proposals for COVID-19 vaccine development and manufacturing to be done right here in the province. As well, there are both signals that they've sent as early as June of last year that both levels of government plan to significantly invest in growth in these sectors. So John, Jared, and Andrew, what do you think these measures by the Canadian and Albertan governments mean for your organizations and the growth of the sector generally in Alberta? Go ahead, John.
I'll take that first. Yeah, sure. No, I mean, we just passed a grim milestone in this pandemic. We've been with it for a year. I think anybody watching, has felt a tremendous impact as a Canadian over the past year, and in one way or another. I think with the dramatic developments on the biotechnology side, the development of safe and effective vaccines, I think Canadians expected to be sort of getting out of this pandemic a little quicker. And I think that one of the reasons for this taking longer than we expected was a lack of made in Canada, both innovation on the vaccine development side or support for that innovation, and of course the made in Canada manufacturing capacity. And as a result, we've had to rely on the manufacturing capacity of other countries that invested heavily early on. And I think the fact that both the federal government and most importantly, the Albertan government have now placed a priority on this, building this, this fantastic new innovation economy, supporting biotherapeutics manufacturing, just means good things. I mean, we have great academics, we have great small and medium-sized businesses, we have really spectacular early vaccine candidates that could really be brought to bear on Canadians, and we're working. The pandemic has really brought out this new, platform technologies, the genetic medicines, for instance, that Providence and Entos are working on, that can rapidly respond to new virus threats, but also really usher in a new area of genetic medicines for gene therapies, for childhood genetic diseases, for cancer, and Alberta and Canada really has the opportunity to be at the forefront of this industry.
So maybe Jared, picking up on that, you mentioned your work in cancer, and so beyond COVID, what do you see as next in terms of growth opportunities and investment opportunities?
Yeah, I think John brings up a really good point, that it's important that we bring it into Canada, that we have the development and the manufacturing, and so the support that we're getting from the governments is really important in that. And one thing that John mentioned there is that, yeah, this is not just for COVID. The infrastructure we're building, both manufacturing-wise as well as the development programs that we're building in, is going to allow us to go to other infectious disease, to go to gene medicines, gene therapies, to look at gene editing. It's all the same types of technology, DNA, mRNA technologies that are used for those. And as I mentioned before with cancer, that infrastructure that's built for COVID can be used to help us in our cancer programs as well. I think one thing that's really important is that we have kind of in Alberta, not just one or two small entities, that we can grow that. One thing I've been very pleasantly surprised with as I came to Alberta is that we have been able to recruit. I wasn't sure being new to Calgary whether we'd be able to recruit people in, but we've been quite successful at it. But one of the concerns that a lot of our recruits have is, well, what else is there? What else is in Alberta? So if things don't pan out with Providence, what else do I have to lean back on? And I think that's going to be important in that aspect. Also, in building up this kind of broader ecosystem, for lack of a better word, is really going to be helpful with exchange of ideas, with partnerships, and really help us grow together. I see it as a very positive for all of us. I want a lot of companies here in Alberta. I'm not worried about competition. I see it as a really good thing. I mean, you look at the big health centers in the world, they've got a lot of competitors all in one compact space, and it's actually really helpful. And we can feed on each other and grow together.
That's a great point about partnerships. I think that's something that is quite unique about our ecosystem in Alberta. And Andrew, I wanted to throw to you on that because you've created some incredible partnerships and consortia between industry, academia, and government. And maybe you could speak a little bit to some of the nature of the partnerships, but also Jared brought in infrastructure and what the nature of our infrastructure, how that's an asset that sets us apart from maybe other jurisdictions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lynette. I would really like to applaud the provincial government here in Alberta for its commitment to explore options for domestic manufacturing here within the province. I think we're really at a turning point in terms of Alberta where we've built a large amount of groundswell, and really the next 3 to 5 years, what I think we'll start to see is the development of a very mature and robust industry around drug development and the life sciences much more broadly. We do have some phenomenal anchor companies within the region, such as Gilead, and a lot of companies showing a whole bunch of promise, such as Entos and Providence. And we've got success stories of previous innovation from the region, such as Pharmaceuticals, which took intellectual property developed at the University of Alberta and just got FDA approval about a month ago. So we're starting to see a track record that really makes sense. And so, the future of Alberta is potentially, as big as a San Diego style cluster in terms of the broader future. We've got world-class research institutions here. We have a Nobel laureate. We have folks who know what they're doing within the space, and we do have a decent amount of shared capabilities, much more broadly across the province. One of the things API is doing and working to build out is supports for companies that are moving here, such as large-scale fill finish and other platforms that will enable them to scale rapidly at a pace that they're not able to elsewhere. I think one of the big benefits of Alberta being an emerging life sciences cluster is it's a place where you can recruit employees and they'll stay with your company as it continues to grow. One of the biggest challenges in San Diego is, your employees are churning every 1.5 to 2 years to other companies as they go forward. Whereas, a lot of the stuff that we see from our companies here within the province is they recruit a fantastic employee who's been educated very well by the post-secondary institutions here, like the Faculty of Pharmacy, University of Alberta, University of Calgary, and they go on to provide a huge amount of value for that company, but they're not also, worried that they're going to leave or move to another position. And the affordability here in province, you can't beat it. So I think really there's a chance for Alberta specifically to sort of reinvigorate and serve as a vanguard of this sort of reshoring within Canada when it comes to manufacturing and supporting a robust drug development industry from innovators like John and Jared.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up some of the jobs and talent, Andrew, because we actually have a question from one of the viewers that I wanted to throw to the panelists here. So the question is, with the growth of biotech in Edmonton, what job positions will be available in the near future? Maybe, John, I can throw that one to you.
Yeah, so certainly, just to put it in perspective, at the beginning of 2020, actually very much like Providence, I'm a professor of oncology. We were keen on bringing the first viable gene therapy to cancer treatment and working on starting a first-in-human clinical trial for that. And now we're looking at a first-in-human clinical trial for a vaccine. So we're very much interested not only in COVID, but many other biotherapeutics applications for the technology. And so at the beginning of 2020, we had, I think, 12 full-time employees. We've now swelled. I think we just went over 40. We're on track to be over 100 by the end of the year. And these, I think 2/3 of our staff has an advanced degree, PhD, MD, MBA, or master's. We're recruiting in all parts of the business. So on the research and development side, on the regulatory quality side, on the manufacturing, CMC side, I think we see in the next year, a whole different set of opportunities for a wide variety of different expertises, and we're looking forward to continuing that growth over the next few years.
Great. I wanted to circle back to something Andrew brought up. Andrew was drawing a lot of comparisons between Alberta and San Diego. And so I'm going to throw a bit of an unfair question over to Jared, because as somebody who recently moved from San Diego to Alberta, I wanted to ask possibly a biased question. What are you seeing in Alberta as a San Diego expat that excites you?
Well, there's not the ocean, that's for sure. I missed that a little bit. But otherwise, no, I've seen, honestly, I think what Andrew mentioned is true, right? That I think once we recruit, I think we will have better success at retaining. Providence has had a lot of success at retaining our employees in the past. So I think that's really helpful. I am seeing, again, a lot of, I was a little bit surprised. I didn't know what to expect, right? But we're getting a lot of really good applicants, not just throughout Canada, but here in Alberta. We're getting a lot of well-trained people from either other companies or from academia that are ready to hit the ground running, which has been really helpful. In San Diego, I struggled to recruit there probably more than I have here, to be honest. And part of it is cost of living. Part of it is, so much competition amongst other pharmaceutical companies in the area. But there was a lot of factors that maybe went into that. But we've had as much or more success in recruiting here and being able to hire highly qualified people.
That's great. I mean, talent certainly is one of our largest assets, I would say, in Alberta, aside from a lot of our natural assets, none of which are the ocean, I admit, but we do have a lot going on here. So maybe one last question just to all of you in the time that we have remaining here. And is there anything that we missed? If you're a potential investor or company looking to grow, is there anything that we missed talking about when it comes to Alberta's biopharma sector and the opportunities that are here? And maybe we'll start with Andrew.
Sure, absolutely. So one component I would note, and this is a bit more for companies that are looking at the small molecule drug side, is there's a tremendous amount of expertise in province when it comes to chemical manufacturing. Mm-hmm. We built our economy on oil and gas, but not the easy to get oil and gas. The oil and gas that you need to become, a really skilled chemical engineer, and you really need to have a lot of expertise in that side. There's no small coincidence that Gilead has its global API manufacturing plant within Edmonton. This is a site that, when COVID-19 first hit, was the only source of remdesivir in the world, because they do the preclinical and early stage market manufacturing of that active pharmaceutical ingredient. And it's, to the talent standpoint, we've got great technical colleges here in the province who, and polytechnics who are able to train technicians that can go then work under these really skilled, highly qualified people from our research universities. And it's a perfect mix from that standpoint, because there is really that rigor and that sort of training pipeline of the more technical positions that you're looking to fill within a company. And much to Jared's point, the cost of living here and a lot of these other pieces do make it easier for you to recruit. It just takes a little bit of a sort of adjustment to the ecosystem, but that's what folks like us here at API are helping companies do, is really figuring out how they can recruit and build up and establish capacity here in the province, because guaranteed you can't look at a jurisdiction in the world that can really compete with us when it comes to some of these assets. We're world class.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up the chemical manufacturing capacity as well, because I was remiss. I didn't mention in the beginning that Alberta, and particularly the Edmonton region, has one of Canada's largest chemical clusters. We have a world scale chemical cluster in this region. And that includes not just the inputs, but the expertise, the research facilities, and all of the supply chain elements that go with that. John, what about you? Anything that we missed that you wanted investors or potential other companies or talent to know?
Yeah, sure. I think I have 2 points I want to make before the end. The first is, while we're weary from this pandemic, with the emergence of variants and the slow rollout of vaccines, I just wanted to sort of frame the opportunity going forward. I think very much companies like Providence and Entos have a very bright future with safe and effective vaccines. The estimated worldwide market for COVID-19 vaccines, $73.2 billion by 2027. So we're in this for the long haul. And if we build this industry in Alberta, we're looking at, from COVID alone, just a huge market opportunity. Let's put that out there. I just want to touch on the training aspect there for a second as well. I think one real advantage we have in Alberta are the previous investments in infrastructure and sites like the Alberta Cell Therapy Manufacturing Facility, a close partner of ours, where they have sort of 6 FDA-approved, Health Canada approved clean room GMP suites, where we can pilot new processes, scale these up, and also train high quality graduates and personnel to be able to learn the ropes of manufacturing, learn the ropes of process, and then transfer to a commercial manufacturing facility. And I think that's a real strength of the infrastructure in Edmonton.
Absolutely. And on that training aspect, I should also mention that the governments of Canada and Alberta have invested in training programs. So if you're a company that's looking to hire in our province, you can receive government support for the training needs that you have. And so we take talent really seriously here. Jared, last words on anything that you'd like to say to investors and potential companies and talent.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, I want to second what John said about the potential opportunity in just COVID alone. It's massive, and it's going to be here, unfortunately, for a long time. And so I think companies like ourselves, Entos and Providence, and we can really build an anchor here in Alberta. I would say one of the things that we found as well coming here is that there's a lot of available space and labs that you can go into quickly. I mean, we were able to get a lab up and going. We took possession on the 7th of January, and we were able to be fully functional by about the end of February. That's because we went into an old oil and gas lab that was no longer being used, and we're able to kind of fix it up, clean it up, and get it ready to go. And we found a few of those in the area, and I think there's more of those gyms around. So if you're interested in coming to a space where you can get up and running really rapidly, where it doesn't take 2 years to build out a facility, it's a great place to do it.
That's a great point. And speaks to some of what Andrew was talking about in our base and expertise in oil and gas and chemicals, that we have a lot of facilities that can be repurposed quite quickly and easily. So not only is it valuable to invest here, but you can do so and ramp up quickly. I think, I heard a lot today that speed is the name of the game in Alberta. We like to work fast. We like to be innovative, and we've got an incredible talent pool to choose from. And the other thing I heard from our panelists is once you attract talent here, they want to stay because of the cost of living, the quality of life, and this is a place you can raise a family. So if you would like to learn more about investing in Alberta, in the biopharma sector or other opportunities, please feel free to visit our website, edmontonglobal.ca. If you would like to learn more about Entos, Providence, and API, please visit their websites, but you can also find them through our website at Edmonton Global. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today, and for also all of the contributions you're making, not only to Alberta, but to the world. And I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynette.
Thanks so much.